The Council of Civilized Worlds had never been this quiet. Even the shimmering banners of 100 species seemed to dim inside the Grand Assembly Hall, their colors fading beneath the weight of despair. The war had gone wrong, horribly wrong. The Karnak Dominion, a race of metallic predators bred for annihilation, was sweeping across the stars, consuming every system they touched. On the holomap above the council dais, crimson markers blinked, one after another. Colonies extinguished, fleets destroyed, defenses shattered. The galaxy's proud alliances were collapsing faster than the council could convene emergency meetings. "They've breached the Outer Rim defenses!" shouted Admiral Keth of the Avari, his translucent fins flaring. "Our sixth fleet is gone!" Panic rippled through the chamber. Voices of dozens of species overlapped, crying out for reinforcements, for hope, for anyone who could stop the Dominion's march. "We need allies!" hissed Tivar of the Silith, her crystalline wings trembling. "Someone, anyone, who can fight them on equal terms." But there were no allies left. The Veran Confederation had sealed its borders. The Oltari monarchs had surrendered before a single shot was fired. Even the famed Relilian Armada was crippled, retreating toward its homeworlds. Then, in the noise and fear, one old voice spoke. Quiet. Calm. "The humans," said Admiral Varro of Relilia. The chamber froze. Tavar recoiled. "You can't be serious! The Deathworlders?" Yes. The name alone stirred unease. Humanity, the species born on a death world so hostile that most council biologists once refused to believe it existed. A world of toxins, predators, and violence that forged beings who thrived in chaos. They were brilliant, unpredictable, and terrifyingly adaptable. "They're not part of the defense accords," the Chancellor reminded him sharply. "We banned their military technologies after the Orion incident." Varro met his gaze. "And yet they survived every war since, alone. Maybe that's what we need. Someone who knows how to fight when the universe is burning." The chamber erupted in protest, but desperation outweighed fear. In the end, the vote passed, barely. The distress signal was prepared and transmitted, bursting through hyperspace, a final cry for help echoing through the void. "To any and all who hear this message, the Council is falling. We request aid. Coordinates attached." Days passed, then weeks. The Council's defenses crumbled further. Worlds went dark. Hope faded. And then the sensors screamed. Thousands of warp signatures appeared on the edge of Council space, enormous, fast, unregistered. "Identify!" barked Admiral Keth of the Avari. "Is it the Karnak?" "No," whispered the sensor officer. "The signatures are Terranin." On the display, black-holed warships unfolded from hyperspace, massive and angular, their hulls engraved with the ancient emblem of a blue world wrapped in stars. The Terran Expeditionary Fleet had come. But whether they came as saviors or something far more dangerous, no one yet knew. The void tore itself apart when the humans arrived. Ripples of energy flared across the stars as the Terran Expeditionary Armada emerged from hyperspace. Hundreds, no, thousands of ships broke through the dark, each a brutal masterpiece of engineering. Their hulls were obsidian black, absorbing light, bristling with weapons that looked more like siege platforms than starships. The Council fleet, already battered from months of retreat, floated in formation,
stunned. The contrast was immediate. Their ships were elegant, curved, built for ceremony and diplomacy. The Terran vessels, by comparison, looked like they'd been forged inside a volcano and sent into space to make war on the universe itself. Those can't be human ships," whispered a Relian officer, staring at the tactical feed. "No one builds dreadnoughts that size." "They do," murmured Admiral Varro. "They always did." A crackle of comms, then a voice, calm, clipped, unmistakably human. "This is Admiral Helena Stroud of the Terran United Fleet. We received your distress call. Identify yourself and stand by for tactical synchronization." Council command stammered over the channel. "This is the Council Defense Network. Thank you for responding, Admiral Stroud, but our fleets require authorization before—" "Authorization is irrelevant. Your outer defenses are collapsing. The Karnak Vanguard will arrive in 3 hours. My fleet will take point. Transmit your tactical maps now." The aliens froze. They weren't used to being ordered. But something in her tone carried the kind of confidence that only came from surviving everything the universe could throw at you. Moments later, the Terrans began to move. It wasn't a fleet maneuver. It was choreography. Hundreds of ships pivoted in unison, locking into formation with precision that bordered on terrifying. Their drives ignited in blue fire, and the void began to hum as power built through their magnetic rails. Then the Karnak appeared. Dozens of crimson warforms burst into real space, angular and vast, their hulls screaming with radiation. The Council forces scrambled to intercept, but before a single alien ship could fire, the humans did. One salvo. White lines of plasma and kinetic fire lanced across the void. The first Karnak cruiser shattered instantly. Its hull peeled apart like foil. A second, then a third followed. The Terrans didn't hesitate. They didn't aim. They calculated. Within minutes, the battlefield was silent except for drifting debris. On the Council bridge, Tivar could only whisper, "That was only one strike group." Varro nodded, voice low. "Now you see why they were banned." Admiral Stroud's transmission cut through again. "Your world is under our protection now. But understand this, where humanity stands, no enemy survives. Prepare your diplomats." Her tone wasn't prideful. It was a warning. For the first time in generations, the galaxy remembered what a Deathworld species truly was.
3 hours later, the sky was on fire. The Karnak Dominion had arrived in force, an armada so vast it swallowed starlight. Thousands of crimson warforms spread across the void like a living storm. Their command ship alone dwarfed entire cities, its weapon cores pulsing with unnatural light. Council fleets formed defensive grids, but fear rippled through every transmission. The enemy's numbers blotted out entire sectors of the tactical map. Admiral Stroud stood at the center of the Tusk Sovereign's bridge, her gaze cold, calculating. "Status: Enemy fleets advancing at 0.4 C, replied her XO. "Council lines are holding, for now." "Good. Begin Phase 1. Across the human armada, thousands of launch bays opened like iron mouths. From within poured swarms of dark, spear-shaped drones, autonomous kinetic platforms built for one purpose: destruction. Each was loaded with depleted core projectiles capable of tearing through shields like glass.
"Engage the spear doctrine," said Stroud. The order rippled across the fleet. The drones accelerated, warping space around their magnetic drives. Then, in one synchronized moment, they fired themselves at the Karnak fleet. The result was catastrophic. Karnak ships vanished, entire squadrons obliterated by invisible storms of mass fire. Where they tried to scatter, Terran interceptors swept in, carving through stragglers with surgical precision. From the Council's perspective, it was chaos. Their tactical feeds couldn't even track half the projectiles before impact. What they saw was simply ships disappearing, one after another, as if erased from existence. Tvar clutched the edge of the holotable, her wings trembling. "They're annihilating them." Varro exhaled slowly. "No, they're demonstrating." Even as victory seemed certain, Stroud's expression never changed. Her eyes locked on the enemy flagship still pushing forward through the destruction. "Target their core," she ordered. A single Terran dreadnought broke formation. Its rail spine glowed white-hot. The energy spike alone overloaded Council sensors. Then came the shot. A hypervelocity slug, accelerated to near light speed, punched through the Karnak flagship and kept going. There was no explosion, just silence. Then the slow bloom of molten debris scattering across space. Chairs erupted across the Council fleet. The Karnak formation broke, retreating into hyperspace in disarray. But Stroud didn't celebrate. She ordered, "Don't chase them." That wasn't their main force. That was bait. Her officers exchanged worried glances. "What do you mean, Admiral?" "The Karnak wanted to see how we fight. They're studying us now." She turned toward the stars, where hyperspace scars still glowed like wounds. "Tell the Council this isn't over. Tell them to prepare for extinction-level warfare, because now they know humanity's strength, and they'll be back." The bridge fell silent. The galaxy had just witnessed humanity's return to war, and in doing so, had reminded itself why they were once banished from it.
The war was over, at least for now. Debris drifted through the void like metallic snow. Burned-out Karnak halls glowed with residual plasma, their twisted remains orbiting the Council's central world as grim reminders of what had just transpired. The battle had lasted only 8 hours. The Terrans had annihilated a fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. For the first time in living memory, the Council's homeworld was safe. And yet, there was no celebration. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the surviving delegates watched as Admiral Helena Stroud stood before them, a lone human amid 100 alien races. Her uniform was dark, her posture rigid, her face unreadable. The hum of the holo-recorders filled the silence. "On behalf of the United Terran Command, your systems are secure. The Karnak have retreated beyond known space." A murmur of relief spread through the chamber. Until she continued. "But they will return. And next time they won't come for conquest. They'll come for extinction. You must decide now, fight beside us or die behind us." Gasps rippled through the hall. The Chancellor of the Avari flared his fins indignantly. "You speak of war as if it were inevitable." Stroud's gaze was unwavering. "Because it is." She tapped a control on her wrist. The holofield shifted, revealing recordings from the Terran fleet's deep sensors. Images filled the air. Karnak shipyards, countless in number, constructing vessels larger than anything in Council history. The Dominion had barely noticed their defeat. Silence fell. Tvar, the Silithan Chesseter, spoke softly. Why help us after everything you did to your people? The sanctions, the bans, the exile from our defense treaties." Stroud's answer was simple. Because humanity remembers what it means to be abandoned. Her words echoed in the vast chamber. She looked around, meeting the eyes of every delegate. "We were forged in chaos.
Every species on Earth evolved by surviving catastrophe. You call us Deathworlders as if it's an insult, but you misunderstand. It's not our world that kills. It's what it made us. The holo shifted again, now showing human Marines assisting wounded alien crews, engineers rebuilding Council defenses, Terran medics patching up soldiers who once feared them. Stroud's tone softened. You called for allies. What you got were survivors. Remember that difference. And with that, she turned and left. From orbit, the Terran fleet slowly pulled away, their massive drives igniting against the black. To the Council worlds below, they looked like dark angels rising into the stars. Admiral Varro watched from the observation deck as the last ship vanished into hyperspace. They came as saviors, but they leave as something far greater or far worse. Tavar nodded, her crystalline wings glinting in the dim light. Either way, she whispered, the galaxy will never be the same again.